At various times in my 70 years of life, I have often wondered why I am on the face of this earth. This is why I am considered a domestic terrorist. Recently, I have become more aware of something I feel I must do, and I think I finally discovered the purpose of my life. I watch the dismantling of our country by our so-called leaders, while the largest majority of us sit in an entertainment-induced fog. It becomes evidence that time has brought the human race to another crisis point. Mankind has always been and always will be a warrior race. We are now able to destroy all life on this planet. Frankly, I do not know why some idiot has not felt the need to use his bright, shiny nuclear toy to obtain some physical, emotional, financial, religious, or territorial advantage. I believe the strength and presence of the United States and its military might and its morals are the only reason this has not happened. Now there is a concerted effort to morally, economically, militarily, and psychologically destroy the strength of the United States. Ironically, the threat does not come from outside the borders of the United States, but from inside the very heart of the government. The saddest of all occurrences is that the vaulted Fifth Estate is not screaming bloody murder at this process, but appears to be in league with it. Instead of working with due diligence to expose the corruption in our government, the media puts up a smokescreen of useless illitera designed to lull the masses through the time slot allotted to the propaganda called news, to the most important part of happenings in our day, the glorified soap operas which keep us transfixed and blissfully unaware of the travesty being perpetrated to our society. One of the greatest lessons of history is a populace unwilling to monitor its leaders and their government is doomed to fall at the hands of barbarians, foreign and domestic. Wake up. Rome is burning. The reasons I am a cultist, a fanatic, not politically correct, a moralist, and a domestic terrorist. Cultist. I believe in God, the Son of God, and His infinite power in the universe. I believe turning away from God is the surest way to destroy a society. If you don't believe in God, take heart. God still believes in you. Fanatic. As a former Oakland, California police officer, I know the only crimes police officers are able to prevent are the ones they happen upon in progress. The rest of the time they serve as glorified legal secretaries with the sole purpose of recording crimes so that they can be directed toward the legal system. The sad thing about law enforcement is that the committed men and women who feel in their souls the need to stand between the good and bad of society have become the targets of society and are afraid to enforce the penal code for fear that they might become targets of the socialist media. I believe the law of the land needs to be enforced and not used as a vehicle to make millionaires of the perpetrators and the lawyers involved in the cases. I believe punishments should fit the crime and be swift and sure. I believe an American is a citizen of the United States and a member of the only race living, the human race. I believe citizenship is precious and not to be given away because you happen to be living here. I will stand up for the United States and fight to the death to protect her. I believe that an armed citizenry is necessary, and I believe that a government that fears its citizens being armed is a government that does not need to exist because the citizens are the government. I believe that the government that has lost touch with the people needs to be removed, And if it cannot be done by elections, it needs to be done by force. If there remains any doubt in your mind, I am advocating the use of force and violence to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Not politically correct. The terms racist and political correctness have become the club that the liberal media uses to put forth an agenda that makes a mockery of anyone with any religious values or a different political view. I do not believe that to demean any person or to bully any person is correct behavior at any time. However, I believe that any person using that behavior needs to be stopped by force if necessary. What bothers me about political correctness is that if the member of one race says something about another race, that person is drawn and quartered by the media. However, if a member of the second race says anything, even much worse, it passes the media without a peep. There's an old country saying where I come from, what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. It does not seem to apply here. I've seen more racial hatred, bigotry, and hypocrisy from the so-called oppressed race than I ever saw anywhere in the South where I was raised. Moralist. We as a country need to be less afraid of what we say and more about what is morally correct to do. Morally correct behavior has often been portrayed by the media as weakness, but I see morally correct behavior as standing up for the right and justice in all things. We, like Jesus, need to take a braided rope and drive the money changers from our congressional temple. I believe politicians who are bought and paid for and sell their votes to the highest bidder, rather than do what is absolutely correct for the country, need to be removed from office by whatever means necessary. If what I have written and said so far here does not brand me as a domestic terrorist, this most assuredly will. Wake up out of your stupor. Do not expect someone else to do your job. Do not expect unearned handouts from the government. Buy yourself a gun. Learn to use it, and more importantly, learn when to use it and when not to use it. This means familiarizing yourself with all the mechanics of the weapons and its limitations and its ranges. I state again for emphasis, I know from having been a police officer in the Oakland Police Department, police officers are unable to protect anyone unless they happen upon a crime in progress. Basically, what police officers have become, due to the limitations placed on them by politicians, is a glorified legal secretary. This is a great disservice to the men and women who feel the need in their hearts and souls and have the capacity to stand between the good and evil in our society that it has become so difficult for them. They're afraid to do their jobs for fear they'll wind up in jail or the courts themselves. We have allowed our courts to become a travesty, and attorneys' fees to become so exorbitant that a basic working man cannot afford to purchase a lawyer's services. The joke of a court-appointed attorney seems to have the only purpose of taking a deal in order to clear the court docket. Perpetrators with money are almost assuredly walking out of court free and clear while laughing at the justice system for the cameras. The time has come when all of us, men, women, children, need to rise up in anger and despair and fight for the United States of America. Complacency only ensures that you become slaves. Remember, if you are in debt, you do not work for yourself, but for the debtor. Most often these days, that debtor is the government. Student loans, Freddie Mac, VA loans, all government programs designed to place an unreasonable burden of debt on you. You cannot stand by any further as our rights are incrementally deleted. Unless those that seek to do harm to the United States and Constitution meet active, effective, and if need be, violent resistance, they will continue to take everything you have, inch by inch. Unless you stand up and actively resist, they will pressure you so that those of you without resolve will give in rather than face a confrontation. This is my warning shot. 3 times in my life I have stood, raised my hand, and sworn to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The first time when I entered college in 1962. Then when I entered the United States Army in 1966. The last time when I entered the Oakland Police Department in 1969. Never did I take that vow lightly. I will defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will defend the United States of America. I will give my life in that defense. My name is Rodney Hayes Duncan.